Hello, welcome back to Beauty Bee. Today we're making a mint palette. Why? Somewhat because I've been inspired by the new e.l.f. release, somewhat because I've been inspired by the, I think probably year-old ColourPop Mint to Be release, and mostly just because I want one. So I've got all my eyeshadow out. If you've seen these videos before, I will be swatching along my arm to make usually a 10 pan-ish palette. I'm thinking anywhere from 9 to 12, though probably not 11 because an 11 shadow palette just sounds obnoxious. So let's get started. The only shade that I've actually already picked out is from my NYX Ultimate Utopia palette, and it is this shade because it is the one true mint that I own. Let's see. We'll stick to this hand for now. That's going to show up really well in some light and not in others, so I'm just going to build that up a little bit. That's better. I could see it pretty well after the first swatch, but I don't think you could. I also want this sort of sage green shade. I think that will be helpful in building up a mint look, so here's where we're at. Now let's put that to the side and look through some other palettes. I definitely also know that I want this really dark green. There's that shade. And this one actually swatches quite nicely too. And this one actually swatches really nicely as well. I mean, here's that. Now my goal for this palette is that it feels like biting into a whitening gum, that it just feels really cool and refreshing and, well, minty of course, but a certain crispness to it. And I think that we're starting to see that developing, but I want some more green coming out. So I think my next pick is going to be this shade. Now I have a wet washcloth next to me and I'm gonna get my fingers wet first because I know that this shade does not swatch very well. Okay, I think that's showing up actually pretty well in the swatch now. There we are. Really bringing it back to green, though it almost looks blue in comparison to everything else. Interesting. Okay, and because I want it to be very cool toned, I think that I'm going to add this silver as well as this white. We'll talk more about those as I'm swatching. This silver has some purple to it, but I feel that it really does pull quite silver on my skin. And here's this white, which, how well can you see that? Probably not very. It's a nicely pigmented shade, it's just needs to be built up a little bit on my skin tone for it to be really obvious. Okay, so what are we at now? 6? Cool, that gives us a lot of room to play. I think I might take this a little bit into blue, and we'll see. Let's play around with it a little. I want to add this blue as well as this sort of teal shade. So we're definitely past true mint and going into blue, but I think that this still feels cohesive. And I do think that I would want to take this in a bit of more of a blue direction if I end up doing more than like 2 looks with this palette, which, you know, if it was a real palette, hopefully I would. And I will probably have a 2 looks with these shades up probably next week, I would think. I will link the playlist where I will be adding that video if you're interested, or you could always just subscribe and then it'll show up in your subscriptions feed. So, shameless plug there. So what do we still need? Definitely need some more mattes because I think right now we're at 2 mattes and 6 shimmers, though honestly I think that's more of a satin than a real shimmer. I actually like more shimmer than matte, though I think I'm in the minority there. But that is a little bit too skewed of a ratio for my personal tastes. So let's find some more mattes. I think that this gray would be a good choice. It's a little bit darker than that sage green shade that we had earlier, which actually isn't looking that green now in comparison to everything else, but it is, it's a green. This is darker. I could use this to deepen up some outer corners or use it under my eyes. I do think that I'll want something that's a little bit lighter than both of these. It doesn't even necessarily have to be minty, really. So let's look for that. Actually, that would probably be useful. Yes. It's not exactly mint, but let's go with this shade Classic for my Profusion Glam palette. It is quite light, and it is a really good transition or really light crease shade for me. There's that shade. It's actually even a little deeper than I was thinking it was. So definitely a little bit warmer, but I actually really like a warmer crease with blues and greens. I think also that I will add this shimmery blue, again from that NYX Ultimate Utopia palette. This one's another one that's going to take a little bit of building up. These are really nice shades over glitter glue, but I'm not going to apply glitter glue to my arm. That seems highly unnecessary. So we're just going to build them up a lot instead. Okay, so now that I've basically made stripes all the way across my arm of that blue, because I couldn't figure out where I needed to swatch it so you could see it, I'm really liking this actually. I think this could make some really fun looks. So how many shades am I at? I'm at 11. That is the most obnoxious number of shades to have in a palette, so I think I need one more. It should probably be a matte. And I don't know. Let's do a little bit of looking. I think what we really need is a green matte to bring home that this is indeed a mint palette, and let me look for that. One sec. All right, I think I have found it. We're going back into that e.l.f. Hot Jalapeno palette, and I think this green is what's gonna work out for us. There we are. I do almost wonder if that's not... I thought that that was going to work out really well, but I actually don't love it in conjunction with the rest of these shades. I think would work really well with that brown, but I don't know. It doesn't say mint to me, so I think that's going to go away. It's fine. We can just ignore that, right? Cool. Let's see. Do I have a matte green? So I don't have a matte green that I think would work really well, but I do think that this shade gives sort of a mint vibe as well, and that definitely fits under that cool, crisp feel that I was going for with this palette. So let's add that. Making sure I've got a clean finger. Yeah, that might be one of the mintier shades in the entire palette, really. All right, and if we ignore that shade, I think we've got the palette. I know from experience that these two shades look pretty similar in a swatch, but come off quite different on the eye. This is a much more sheer shade, and it comes off much lighter, while this is a lot more impactful and it's a lot more shiny on the eye. I think also that this lower half of the palette will look a lot more green, look a lot more minty once they're right next to some of these shades up here. I think this is cute. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to using this. And I do think that it offers a little bit more depth, a little bit more variety than either of the two mint palettes that I was looking at for inspiration. I can do some damage with this. This is going to be fun. And most importantly, I think I've managed to convince myself that I definitely do not need either the ColourPop or the e.l.f. palette. So, mission accomplished. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed, and that I'll see you in the next video. Bye!